Welcome back to FFL Boss Tutorials. We are very happy to announce our 6.0 version of FFL Boss, which is what you're seeing here. Nice and clean. We've really buttoned it up, made it significantly faster. We're actually very proud of it. What we're going to do today is we're going to go over the whole software platform. Every little facet and feature of it, I'm going to break down and show you how it works, show you what everything does and how to make certain transactions occur. What I want to start off by showing you is the navigation menu to the left here. This is the main menu to navigate to really any part of the software. There's also additionally some quick navigations up here at the top. Those are very, very helpful to reduce the amount of time that you're spending on any particular transaction, such as acquisitions, dispositions, FFL transfers. What's really great about the quick transactions menu is instead of navigating to each of the pages individually, you can simply go to quick transactions, acquisition. There it is right there in front of you. Next is Kiosk Mode, Ioi Mode, and Point of Sale. Kiosk Mode is going to be for the customer facing side of things, and that's how you would lock the account so that your customers can fill out the 4473, and we will be going into that. Ioi Mode is specifically for ATF audits. And Point of Sale is pretty self-explanatory. We do have a Point of Sale platform, and you can check out some other videos on our YouTube page in order to see what that Point of Sale is all about. If we come over here to the far right, we see our Admin Control dropdown. Click on that and you'll see FFL's locations, account settings, billing, subscriptions, users, security center, and help center. Each of those is going to give you different access to different things, of course. FFL's locations is specifically for each FFL license in order to create a subscription for that license. Account settings are going to be individual, of course, based on the login of the person who is logged in at the moment. Billing is going to be something that only the admin has access to. That's going to, of course, have the credit card credentials and the different subscription types, and only the admin has access to that. Subscriptions is not only going to be your standard subscription, but also any additional subscriptions that you have added on, such as modules, whether that's the pawn module or the manufacturing module or the NFA module, and we have a lot of other modules we would like to put together also. Users is pretty self-explanatory. This is where you can add additional users to your system. If we click on that, we can go right here to this users page, and it's nice and clean right now because this is a brand new beta version that we're testing here. Click add user, and we have the ability to go ahead and put in that user along with their LEAP credentials. We have a wonderful Google extension that you can download to your Google Chrome browser that will autofill for NICs exclusively. It does not autofill for any of the state POCs, although we are looking forward to connecting to those individual states as they allow that to come on board. Set that password and then confirm it along with the first name, last name, the title of the person, and then the location that they will have access to. What's really nice here is you can give them access to all locations, or you can give them access to one specific location. All of those permissions are laid out right over here to the right, where you can see exactly what each of those will allow each of your employees to do, which is very handy to be able to look at. Next is the Security Center. The security module is going to be mostly for companies that have multiple employees. You have the ability to set up two-factor authentication per user. You can determine the password minimum length and maximum length. And of course, you can also add different credentials to that password that make it more secure. You can ban IP addresses or whitelist IP addresses. And what happens for you is each of your employees who logs in, you'll be able to see their email, their username, the date that they logged in, login success, IP address, location, and geo coordinates. Let's come back here to dashboard and let's go over the bound books real quick. Each of those bound books, you're going to start off with a primary bound book as shown here, and you can create additional bound books very easily by simply going to the digital view of the bound book and then click add bound book up here in the upper right hand corner. Now as soon as you type in that bound book name, the system will generate that bound book for you, and you are off to the races and you can start acquiring to that book. Next is Point of Sale. If you are interested in that, please scroll down to the bottom here, click Submit Request, and send in your information, and we will reach out to you and go through a demo and whatnot and show you exactly what it is that it'll do and see if it's of benefit to you. If we go to the Acquisitions page, this is where all of your acquisitions will be displayed within the system. You can add acquisition by clicking up here, and that add acquisition pop-up will come up. On an acquisition, it's very simplified with our system. All you have to do is choose the dealer, or the customer. If it's a customer, just choose customer and then choose that drop down list. As of right now, I show 0 because I need to add a customer. But as soon as I click that plus button, I can add that customer on the fly. If the dealer that I am going to acquire from is not showing up in that drop down, I can simply click this little plus button right to the left, and then I can choose FFL lookup, and I can type in that company's name, I can type in the address of that company, whatever credentials I would like to search by. And I can click that search button right here, or I can just simply come down here and click a dealer that I would like to use. Now what you're seeing here is the license name being Zane Industrial and the trade name being Zane Tactical. What we always recommend is taking that trade name, cutting and pasting it right into the display name and any other information you might have on that dealer. That will allow you to maintain that data at all times and be able to reach back around to that dealer simply by looking up their credentials within the system. I would highly recommend adding an email for the dealers. That's going to help you out in the future as you are doing your business to be able to contact those dealers without having to go somewhere else to look up that data. And lastly, you can upload a copy of their FFL simply by clicking right here and choosing that file. You can upload a copy of their FFL simply by clicking that FFL and open. And that will attach that file, and you can simply click add dealer. Now granted, that was not their FFL, but it's just a copy of an FFL that I have in the system. Let's go ahead and do an acquisition here. We're going to choose RSR Group. The details of that dealer will populate down here at the bottom, and we click new. Now we have one of two options here. If it's the very first time you're acquiring that firearm, you will need to go ahead and build that firearm's information by choosing what the firearm is, manufacturer, model, caliber, and the serial number. Those are the only things that are ATF required. I do recommend always putting in a SKU or a UPC. I recommend scanning the SKU off of the box if you have it. Scan that somewhere else and then cut and paste it into the SKU box because that is an active lookup field. So as soon as you scan that into the box, it will attempt to search the database for that number sequence. If you'd like, you can go ahead and put the barrel length and the overall length. Technically, those are only required for NFA items, but I do always recommend putting in cost, minimum price, and list price. That will help you if you use our point of sale, but it will also help you as we offer more things like a reporting module and such. Let's go ahead and put in the serial number here and click add product. Before I click that, actually, we do have the option to also put in a range of serial numbers. So if we wanted to put in, let's say, 100 firearms all at once and they were sequential, all we would have to do is type in that first serial number here, type in the last here, and click calculate. That will calculate all of those firearms in between. So I'm going to go ahead and add those products. We have all of those firearms listed over here to the right. I'm going to put those into the primary bound book and then click add acquisition. Now all of those firearms are listed here, and you're off to the races to now transfer that firearm out to a dealer or dispose of that firearm to a customer. Additionally, one of the really cool things about our system, we have the ability for you to modify how and what is being shown on the page. You can download or export that data into multiple file formats. Each one of those items has a link that takes us to that acquisition, and then we can click the view button, which will take us to the actual product itself. Here you have the ability to edit that data in any way, shape, or form that you see fit. Let's say that you accidentally put in the wrong serial number. We can simply put in the new serial number and click save. If you make that serial number modification the same day that you acquired, it will make that change without a change report being required. If you wait till a later date, a change note will be required on the A&D book, and the system will pop up a change note requirement on that for you. Next, you have the ability to print a label on that product. We have all of those label sizes being shown right here, and you can either do a full label or a barcode only. If we go back to the acquisitions page here and go to edit acquisition, we could also print all the product labels simultaneously for that acquisition by clicking print product, click barcode only, and then you will be able to print those labels. Same thing with full label, and it will print all of those labels simultaneously. Now that you have acquired some firearms, the next step would be to dispose of them. So what we're going to do here is there's a couple of ways to do dispositions. You can either do a standardized or what we call quick disposition without a 4473 or a background check. You could also use this in the event that somebody has done a paper 4473 with you, but has chosen to not use the kiosk mode, and you just need to record that disposition into your A&D records. You can either go to the dispositions page, or you can go to quick transactions, disposition, and that will bring up the disposition pop-up. If you navigate to the dispositions page, you can simply click add disposition in the upper right hand corner. Same pop-up, looks just ever so slightly different, but it is the exact same information. And we can choose a customer. I'm going to create one real quick. In the event that you are at an event, such as a gun show, you can put that here. If you don't have that event already listed, you can simply click that plus button and add the event here with its start and end date. If you are adding an event, I would always recommend in the name of the event putting something like Phoenix Fairgrounds, and then put in the dates here. So this next one coming up, I believe there's a big one in December of 2020. So I can put in that date, or I can actually put the start and finish date along with its address, and then you can add that event. Now that you've added the date and time, you can simply click add event. You can also click the edit button here, which will help you edit that particular event on the fly. Next, you want to mark this whether it's part of a pawn redemption or not. This one is not, so I'm not going to do that. And then just click the items that you're going to dispose of. Once you've added these pistols or rifles or whatever firearms, you simply click add quick disposition. That will record the disposition. Now, another way that we can do a disposition is using the kiosk mode. And if we look over here onto the left-hand side, we have in the main menu the kiosk mode, or we can do from the quick transactions kiosk mode. Now when you click that button, all you have to do is type in a pin of really anything. Just remember that whatever you type in to lock the system into kiosk mode, or a laptop or a tablet, the same pin would need to be used in order to unlock that device. The devices that we recommend for kiosk mode would be either a tablet, something like an iPad, or what we really recommend are Chromebooks, and here's some links to some great products. As you can see, once I send the system into kiosk mode, it literally shuts off all of those menus, both on the left and up on the top, and this is what your customer would see, which makes it very easy for your customers to fill out this data, and then also to be able to sign their name down at the very bottom with their finger rather than with a mouse. Signing with the mouse can be quite difficult, so we always recommend utilizing some sort of a touchscreen device in order to fill out the 4473. As you can see here, once the customer comes up to the kiosk mode device, they will be able to put in their first name, middle name, last name. Now, in the event that there is no middle name, NMN will automatically be placed there for no middle name. If you only put a middle initial, you will see the middle initial space IO. IO means initial only, and those are both ATF required terms for the middle name field. The customer will then put in their address, their birthday. Now, when they choose whether they are US or foreign, that right there is the citizenship statement where they were born. Now, whether they choose US or foreign, this is for the birthplace and date. For the citizenship of the United States and state residency, those are both down here, so they would choose US or other. Now, if they choose foreign, you can see that the field changes to allow for a country to be stated. Identically down here on other, once you choose that, you then have the ability to put in a foreign citizenship along with an alien number, and those would be required for people who were born outside of the United States or have citizenship in another country. Your customer has to state whether they are Hispanic or not, and then they do need to answer the race questions. Once they have done that, they can come down here and answer these questions, which all should be no, which all of you do understand that. The very first question is required to be yes, and all the rest should be no. For the optional information, we do highly recommend asking for the customer to put in their social security number. It makes for the background checks process to be much simpler. We also very much recommend having the customer put in their cell phone number and email address. Now, those are great for you to keep track of in your customer records so that you can then use that information to further market to and follow up with your customers to bring them back in for more business. Lastly, you'll have them sign down here at the bottom. And when they sign, their signature does need to be above the line. We do not want to see those signatures go below that line. If that happens, go ahead and clear it out and have the customer sign again. If there's a Y or a Z or whatnot, those can go below the line a little bit, but putting the signature, say, right in the middle where that line goes right through the middle of the signature is highly discouraged. As soon as the form is submitted by your customer, the form will then go blank, which means that it is ready for the next customer in line to then fill out their 4473. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock this device and go back to the regular mode. Now, normally when you are using a kiosk device, preferably you have a separate device that you utilize for the customer facing side and a separate device that you use for your admin control computer, a desktop or a laptop computer. If we now go to pending 4473s, we see now that Donald J. Trump is ready to purchase the gun. So the next step would be to review that 4473. What the system will do is it will take you to the next step in the process where you will then be able to view that 4473. You'll be able to see all of that data, but you cannot modify or edit that data. If we scroll down to the bottom here, everything has been submitted. So let's go ahead and continue the 4473. Now what we see here is exactly what we would like to see. In the event that a situation has arisen where the customer is out of state, underage, a multiplicity of different things that could come up, our system does pop these warnings for you to say, hey, be aware this might not be an okay transaction for you to complete. I'm going to go ahead and ignore those, which you do have the ability to ignore them, but we always recommend that you don't. In the event that you know what you're doing and the warning that came up is not applicable to that customer, feel free to move forward. But we do put up those warnings to allow you guys to make your own decisions. Now, in the event that that is an NFA item, you can simply mark it as such, and then the background check information disappears because no additional background checks need to be run for NFA items. Additionally, if they have a valid permit that allows them to bypass a background check. Now, I want to be very clear on this. Only if the permit allows the background check to be bypassed should you put it in. In the event that your state requires a background check, regardless of a CCW, there is no need to put in the CCW if you've also put in a driver's license or passport or some other type of identification. This specifically is for only when you have a permit that allows for that background check to be bypassed. Now the next spot is the Brady identification number. If your state does require you to put that, go ahead and put that down. If you have downloaded the Google extension, like you can see up here, it may be right out of the viewfinder of the screen, but if you've downloaded the FFL Boss extension, it will show up right about here from where I'm showing on the screen, about a ½ an inch above that spot, and it'll show the FFL Boss logo. Now that FFL Boss logo will light up when you are on an FFL Boss authorized page, and the extension can then be utilized in order to run that background check. So if you click Use Assisted Leap and you have put in those Leap credentials under your account settings, the system will auto log you into Leap and run that background check for you. In the event that you are in a state that has a separate POC or a partial POC, you would either need to run a background check through the NICS for rifles if you're in a partial, or if you're in a full POC state, then you would need to run that background check for both pistols and rifles through the state. Once you get that response, just put in the date, put in the number, and put in the NICS response here. Next, you'll need to put in their identification. Now, before you run a background check, I always recommend adding the firearms that that person would like to purchase first. Those firearms will populate over here on the right-hand side. Then go ahead and add the identification. Once you've added the identification, if you've downloaded the extension for the background check, you can simply click Use Assisted Leap. It will auto log you into Leap, and you will be able to autofill all of that information and simply click the Submit button twice. That will then pop a response for you, whether that's delayed or proceed. You'll want to go ahead and pull that NTN number, put it up in the upper right-hand corner of the page, and then put in the response, and then those will show up down here. And then we can, at this point, if we've gotten a proceed, go ahead and click the Complete button. If you receive a delayed response, multiple items will show up here. Now in the system on the multiple sales page, even though we haven't done enough transactions to show this yet, this is where your multiple sales will show up, and you will be able to automatically send those multiple sale forms to the ATF and to your Clio if you have entered your Clio's information under FFL's locations. The next one is canceled and denied. This is a separate partition in your account that will manage the canceled and denied 4473s and transactions. They will all be managed and stored here. Now with destroyed items and lost and stolen items, those are pretty self-explanatory. If you've had a lost or stolen item, you'll simply need to mark it as such, and then it will be recorded into the bound book. Same thing with destroyed items. If you've had to destroy something, you'll go ahead and create that destroyed item within the system, and it will mark it as such in the A&D records. Now within the NFA module, you have the ability to create reservations, rentals, exports, and trust and legal entities. When adding a reservation, simply click the Add Reservation button. Choose whether that firearm, technically suppressor, or other NFA item is going to be going to a dealer or a customer, or being transferred to a trust or other type of legal entity, or if you're going to be exporting that item, simply select what you will be doing. Choose from that drop-down list where it will be going. Let's choose a customer in this scenario. We're going to send this off to Donald Trump. Go ahead and put in the address of the manufacturer of that suppressor, today's date, and then add items. Immediately select that item that you're going to add. Either put in the serial number of the item, which is usually the preferred method, or you can search by type. Additionally, you can put in a first serial number or a starting serial number and a last serial number if you have multiple serial numbers to transfer to somebody, and then calculate, and it will create the list of all of those items simultaneously. Most of the time that will be for Form 3s to another dealer. Now we'll go ahead and add that item and then add reservation. Now that that reservation has been created, typically that Form 4 is going to take a little while to create, but let's go back into that item and we can create those different forms. Next, you can simply click the Generate Form button, and whether that is a Form 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, or 23, the system will automatically generate those forms. You can then print them and send them where necessary. Next is rentals. Now rentals is fairly self-explanatory. If you have a gun range and you'll be renting out firearms, or let's say you have an employee who will be taking firearms off to a demo, great idea to put them under a rental, and that way you can account for your firearms at all times. Exports, you'll need to create that company that you will be exporting to, and then you can also generate those exports from within FFL Boss. Last is the trust and legal entities within the NFA module, where you can create something like a trust. Once that trust is created, you can then dispose of those NFA items directly to that trust on a Form 4. The products and firearms page is literally a list of every firearm that you have brought into your system, whether it's currently in stock, sold, transferred, whatever the case may be for that firearm, whatever status it's in, you will be able to find it from within the products and firearms page. Each one of those items has a print button, an edit button, and a go to product button, where you can go to the details of each of those products. Next is inventory count. Pretty self-explanatory for this one. This is a great way for you to keep track of the firearms that are in your system, a great way to do inventory counts using barcoding. If you are utilizing our barcoding system, you can simply scan those barcodes and the system will let you know if those firearms are in stock or not. Click Start Inventory, give it a title. Once your inventory count has been started, you can go into that inventory count and it will show you all of the inventory that you have brought in up to that point. So what you noticed in the previous inventory is I had started an inventory count here, but there are no items because there were no acquisitions done up to that point. When I go back to view this particular inventory, this will show me all firearms that have been acquired up to that point. Anything I acquire after that will not show up on this inventory count. I have the ability here to print that current view, which means whatever is displaying on this page will print. I can print a report, I can download that report, or I can download a CSV. Now tied into the Ioi mode or ATF inspection mode is the Ioi Inspections. Once you have been audited by an ATF IOI, you would come to Ioi Inspections here and start Ioi Inspection. put down that inspector's name, choose the location that they audited, and then add that. When you go into that particular inspection, you'll be able to see the details of that inspection, make notes, mark any particular item as problematic, something that you have flagged that you could then later go back and fix. Now next here we have the Firearm Manufacturer. That is an additional module that we charge for. It's $25 a month, but with this module, you can automate that manufacturing process very, very easily. Additionally to that, we automate the excise tax form. In addition to the federal excise tax form, we have the ability to automatically generate the manufacturer's form 5300.11. That is an annual required form for all manufacturers. In order to utilize the manufacturing firearm module, simply click Manufacture Firearm. Now at this point, you're going to choose the date, which would be today, and you can choose a different date too. You can also do retroactive dates. Then choose the firearm the way that it was before you manufactured. So for this particular one, I'm going to choose lower. Whichever type you choose is what will show up when I click the products button. So if I choose something like frame, I haven't acquired any frames, but if I click products, nothing will show up because I have no frames. But if I choose lower, all of those lowers will show up because I have multiple lowers built into the system. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these firearms here. I'm going to change this into a pistol. All of the basic information is here. I'm only going to modify some of the pricing. And at this point, I can now designate an overall length or barrel length. Those are only required for NFA items, but you can add that information if you'd like. If you had a SKU or UPC on that item, which we always recommend utilizing SKUs and UPCs, the very last step is to simply click Add Manufacturer. What the system will do is then write that firearm out of your primary bound book or wherever that item was located and rewrite it back into your manufacturing bound book as a pistol. What we see here is that I actually had not chosen the correct bound book for it to go to. So I'm going to change that to manufacturing and click save. So now that firearm is located in my manufacturing bound book and has been written out of the primary and then back into the manufacturing. And if you have one or two of these to do a month or a year, it's really no big deal. But if you're doing larger numbers of manufacturing, multiples a day, one a day, it is significantly easier to use the manufacturing module to process and automate that. Next is the My Customers module. This is going to be a comprehensive list of all of your customers. And as your customers come in and fill out the 4473s and do background checks and run transactions and buy from you and sell to you, that list will grow. The same thing with your FFLs. As you do transactions, your personal company's list of people and businesses that you do business with, that list will grow. At any time, you can come to your customer's list and either click on their name or you can click edit to the far right and it will take you to that record. Now, once you are in that record, there are certain pieces of information that are absolutely required in order for any transaction to occur, and those are the ATF required pieces of data, such as the first name, the last name, and the address of the person. The other pieces of information, such as the height, the weight, the birth date, the place of birth, the citizenship, the ethnicity, those are things that are required specifically for a 4473. We always do recommend utilizing the electronic 4473, but if you choose not to, these other pieces of information are not necessarily required to have, but always good to have. As we go down the list of tabs here at the top, this next one is contact information such as address. Now, if that person has multiple addresses, such as a military address and then a primary address, you can simply click Add Address and you can add that other address that they may be located at. Under identification, the bare minimum requirement is going to be a 4473 identification, which would be some sort of identification used on the 4473. We also have NICS permit exception. These are going to be permits that specifically allow for the background check to be bypassed. Now, next on the tabs up here for the customers is your Histories tab. That is going to be very helpful for you to see what that customer has purchased or sold to you in the past. This information here is something that we will be using in multiple modules coming up in the very near future. Now, under the NICS denied section, that is where if a customer has been denied by a background check through NICS or your state POC, they will be located here under a blocked customer list. Now, the only time that that customer can be removed from that blocked list is if the admin of the account unblocks them. The reason that we block them is because once they have received a denied, they cannot buy a firearm from you unless they show you FBI written proof that they have now been removed from that block list and are allowed to proceed with a firearm purchase. The My FFL Dealers page will be a list of all firearms dealers that you have transacted with in the past, and makes it very easy for you to come back to this page to see those dealers or to update information. For instance, let's say that you got a brand new FFL for one of these dealers. Simply go to the edit button to the far right, and you will simply update that FFL. Usually it's going to be these numbers right here, but once you've done so, just simply click save, and the FFL has now been updated in your system. This does not retroactively update the data from previous transactions. It simply updates that dealer moving forward. Next is transfers to FFLs. Within FFL Boss, transferring from you to another dealer is extremely simplified. You can either come to the Transfers to FFLs page and click Add Transfer, or what I always prefer to do is use the quick transactions, and I can simply click FFL to FFL Transfer, choose the dealer I'm going to transfer to, choose the item I'm going to transfer, and click Add Transfer. Simple as that. If they're an FFL Boss user, they will receive an in-network transfer notification. Once you have processed that transaction, it will show up as the next line, and by clicking the edit button, you can go and see the additional details of that particular transfer. Next is events and gun shows, which we lightly touched upon earlier in the demo. This particular page is where you can create and keep track of any event that is happening that you plan on going to, specifically gun shows or something similar to that. You can click Add Event, put in the event's name, which I would always recommend putting in the date of the event, especially if it is an event that has the same name that occurs multiple times per year. And then put in that start date, end date, and the address of that event. Those basic things are ATF required pieces of information that you do need to put before you go to the event, so that when you are at that particular event, you can mark it as such when you do a disposition. The next is the Employee Activity Monitor. This is very, very helpful for businesses who do have employees. It allows you to see what any of your employees are doing at any given time and any potential changes that they are making in the system. Last is emails sent. As of right now, I have not generated any fake emails through the demo, but if you have done any emails sent off, such as transfers to FFLs, multiple sale forms to the ATF, to your Clio, or sending a copy of your FFL to other dealers, the system will keep track of those emails on this page, and you can go back and see what was sent at any given time. Now that pretty much wraps up the demo of FFL Boss. This is our 6.0 version. We're very, very proud of it. It's significantly faster and much more smooth. We hope that you guys love it. Please try it out. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback, or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are a company that loves to hear from our clients, and we would love to hear from you too. And again, as always, thank you for choosing FFL Boss, your FFL software provider.